Annie Alencar, 3 decades of leading Amazon and Cerrado research on fire, deforestation, and degradation, grounding policy in rigorous science. She is also a creator of social technologies for environmental governance and recognized leader for the Folha de Sao Paulo, BGC, and Radiant Earth, bridging science, technology, and communities. And she's a member of high-level science networks, like the Science Panel for the Amazon, El Observatorio de Clima, El MAP Biomas. And also, she's a PhD in forest resources from the University of Florida, bringing deep interdisciplinary expertise. Annie, it's a pleasure to introduce you.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Cheryl, the new Colombia, Bolivia. I think you inspired, maybe got inspired by someone. It's a very much pleasure to be here as a Bacardi scholar and opening this this conference and talking about a topic that is also challenging for me. So before I start, it would be interesting to know how many of you heard anything about tipping point. Could you please? Good. So probably you'll be more confused after my talk, but I hope I also bring some new insights for you. Because as much as I go deeper in this, I get more confused, but I learn more. So I hope the talk at least maybe does this with you. So I'm a fire scientist. I consider myself today, I'm a geographer, but fire scientist. So I decided to work with very smart people that are really going deep into this topic of social and ecological tipping points. And every time I go deeper, I think fire is more important. So that's fine. But anyway, I managed not to bring many slides about fire, so we can learn together. Anyway, so I always start the talks like talking about the importance of the Amazon. This map, I think, is amazing because it shows, like, from the carbon point of view. I know that is not the only thing, but it's very, this map is very powerful to show the importance of this block of the world forest and the importance of it from a carbon storage point of view. Of course, it has many other importances. It's very important for regional and global climate regulation. I mean, all this geodiversity that we have, and that I tell you to read, please, I don't know how many pages of the first SPA Bible. And actually, I think Gallo was the one that participated in that first part of geodiversity and how that brings all the biodiversity that we have. And it's fundamental for many services, including like food, water, energy, security. But we also have people in the Amazon. And this is also an element that is very important. So for the people that are not from the Amazon, usually they look at the map that I showed and they think about, oh, the green, you know. But there are many other things beyond I know that I don't need to tell you this because this is exactly what you know and you're interested, but we do have lots of people in the Amazon, about 47 million of people. The majority of us live in cities, so around, I think, 60 or 70%. But we do have a good amount of people that live, there are indigenous peoples, local communities, maroon communities, or quilombolas, Afro-descendant communities, extractivists that live in the rural areas. We have isolated groups, many of them We have a diversity of cultures, languages, and we do have about half of the Amazon under a type of protection, like formal protection. They are either conservation units, protected areas, or indigenous territories, which is good, but we want more. Anyway, but the thing is that this ecosystem of, like, including people and ecology and everything, is under threat. You know, it's being, I mean, from the last reports of that present the where the places on Earth there you can find tipping elements, risks. The Amazon is right there, and so this report, which is it was released last year, the Global Tipping Point, it presents which are the places on Earth that they are critical. They are like in the edge of irreversible thresholds for Earth climate systems. And we have there like the permafrost, the ice sheets, and the amocs, which are like the currents in the North Atlantic mostly, but other currents as well. And we do have the Amazon there. And I say, okay, so now I think I connected with what we thought about tipping point, maybe. I don't know. But what is a tipping point? A tipping point is where a small change makes a big difference to a system. And believe it or not, and there is a very nice paper for the ones that want to go deeper on the history of tipping point, by, the name is kind of difficult for me, but Milk Rowe, I don't know. It's Environmental Research Letters 2018. It kind of goes all the way back in history and gets from the chemistry and mathematicians that started to talk about tipping point in the late 19th century. After that, just in the half of 20th century, like 1957, like the sociologists, they actually got that, and they did a big deal with it. But talking about the positive tipping point, from a positive perspective, and I think Avesita is going to bring some examples of that. But it's really from a positive perspective. You know, it's like how we can actually do something that changes people like behavior, and it's not going to be back again. I'm going to give you two examples which are for me are very important, like the seatbelt law. You know, it's somehow it's something that happened, norm. I mean, it can be anything, like a disturbance or a norm, or that changed people behavior, and it's not going to be back as it was, maybe. But the cell phone, the internet, I mean, it just created a totally new world. So it's just for give you a hint that when you talk about Amazon tipping point, we are not only talk about catastrophe. We are talking about many other things, because this is really a theory that is really old, and we kind of needed to frame it to be able to talk about it. And it can be positive and negative. That's a very important point. So just to kind of start, and for the ones that read the papers on tipping points, you see a lot of those things, those lines with the marble. And what those lines, they kind of mean is that you have, in all the systems, you have stable states. So the marble here, the marble you have here, for example, is in a stable state. Of course, the stable is not like stopped completely. It varies, you know, it's like bounces with, and then you have a disturbance. And the disturbance maybe moved this ball to the uphill, and then it goes to the other stable state. But then you have another disturbance, and it comes back. So, but when we moved a lot, the other perspective of the state, and we interfere a lot, and we change a lot. The marble, when it goes to the other state, it doesn't come back. And so that would be one thing that the tipping point is. Like it's kind of impossible to come back. And here is maybe I brought some things that are closer for us to understand. So to have the rainforest and to have all the disturbances that are happening individually or together. And it hit to a point in which the forest, maybe like it goes to a place that if it gets here, it'll be very difficult to come back. So this is, and I really like this figure because I think it's easier to understand. So you have the healthy ecosystems, and you have the marble there, and it goes to the other side, but it comes back. And then you have a stable kind of period in which if the marble goes there, it can come back. And then we have an unhealthy condition in which if the marble goes there, it's going to be really difficult to come back. So I'm not going to go through all of these because this is a very good paper on the myth of tipping point by Paulo Brando, which was Jack's student here. But it tells all about when tipping point started with Carlos Nobre in 91 for the Amazon. We talk about like if we change the climate, savannas are going to go under the Amazon, and then we have the perfect climate for that. So the forest will be replaced by savanna. And then we went to all of these. We went to Amazon dieback, and then by stability, we can have two states in the same conditions of climate. And then we had again in 2018 that paper by Lovejoy and Carlos Nobre that said, okay, if we reach 20% of the Amazon, we are done. We are on a tipping point. And later on, there was this little nice paper from Flores, which is like a baby from SPA, a group. It was based on one of the chapters of SPA. That said, okay, it's not exactly like that. There are many other factors that can influence this threshold. And then there's this paper about Brando that presents the domino effect, which is more what we think about what happened if we, But then I think what it brings is that we can stress the system and make the valley more profound if we have the hammer effect. So, which means that we can accelerate a lot the tipping point. And fire is a big issue of that. So that's, I know, I just want to make sure I have time to talk about the fire is a big element, tipping element. This applies to people too. And we just started a project led by Patricia Pinho. She was in my class last week, actually, talking about this. And this can happen with people too. It's a little bit different, but it can, So when we are looking at that from a perspective that the disturbances are mainly related to climate. And we did, with support from Mott Foundation, we did a first, how can I say, a series of workshops in which we mapped which were the main impacts of poor health, loss of identity, loss of culture, loss of biodiversity, loss of livelihoods that impacted these populations and actually can lead to a change of behavior that are not going to be the same. And in Xingu River, for example, people are not covering their houses with sapé anymore because they cannot use fire in the sapé anymore because they can burn everything. And this was a work that I don't know, Liliana, if she mentioned yesterday, but we did for Fulbright, and Galia is also part of this. We just wanted to know how much like disasters, like climate-related disasters are affecting the Amazon. We tried very hard, but we couldn't find data for the countries. And, but we have different conditions in terms of disasters. And so, for example, in Ecuador, we have lots of landslides, storm reports that are different from the other parts of the Amazon when we have fire, drought, and other different things happening. I'm gonna go fast here just to make sure that I show you the fire slide. So, so we know that all of this is happening and have pressure from market governance policies that take all these activities based in dispute for land and resources in the Amazon that lead to deforestation, forest fires, and it's a very, how can I say, comprehensive sketch of the problem, but that feeds back to people and feeds back to the environment. Just to give, this is the slide, people, the fire slide. So maybe, this is the last slide. So we have the deforestation, which we be fighting for 4 years to fight deforestation. But when you look at the fire, and this is the area burned in the Amazon, in the Brazilian Amazon, from 98 to 2024. So this is the entire area burned. And this is the burned area in forest, which are forest fires. The Amazon forests are sensitive to fire. They should not burn at all. Very rarely, we should have like a conjunction of planets for the forest to be able to burn naturally. But we have like thousands, millions of people like putting fire, setting fire every year. This is part of the culture. And what we had in 2024 was outstanding. Only indigenous reserves from 40 years of fire that we have in mapped in Mapiomas, only for the indigenous reserves, we had an increase in new burned area of 40% of everything that burned in indigenous lands. So there was, but is this an isolated event? Are we going to have that? This is the conjunction of the planets. So we have, again, another event like this every 200 or 1,000 years, which is the recurrent fire interval for the Amazon. Or we will have that more often. So this is the point, and this is the humor. This is the humor right there. And I will finish with this. This has many implications. If we have the second fire slide, I'm sorry. It has many implications. This is a map that we are putting together for a publication that says how many days that people were breathing in the Amazon a very bad air quality. And in this region, where we have lots of indigenous communities, lots of local communities, Maroon communities, people were breathing more than 106 days a very, very bad air. This has lots of implications. And people will move, people will do, other types of things. I will stop here Thank you. And I hope at least I put some more things on your mind about what is a tipping point. Thank you.